Listen to this quote: famine, floods, pestilence, drought, plague, war, and rumors of war. These are the key issues facing our world today. End of quote. It almost sounds like something out of Matthew 24, out of the Bible, but no. It's Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum. What is he talking about? Why does he seem to be quoting Matthew 24, at least paraphrasing it? And listen to his solution to these things. Quote, the invitation-only World Economic Forum next week in Davos, Switzerland is just the place to find the answers provided by the select globalist elites. End of quote. Davos is a 2,500 strong in-person gathering with like 50 heads of state, including the NATO Secretary General, the German Chancellor, the President of the European Commission, billionaires, elites of all sorts, meeting to decide the fate of the world. Here's another Klaus Schwab quote. Quote, the return of war, epidemics, and climate crisis. All of these disruptive forces have derailed the global recovery. End of quote. Schwab, the forum's executive chairman, told journalists in an almost biblical prognostication ahead of the convention start Sunday. Those issues must be confronted in Davos, and the global food crisis in particular needs our immediate attention, he said. Can we trust the Davos crowd to solve these things? Can we trust that the Davos crowd didn't cause these things in a bid to allow themselves to come to power? Schwab warned that anyone like me who would seek to trivialize the event or hijack its key messages, including the oft-mentioned Great Reset, will be treated with contempt. Thanks, Klaus. Contempt from you is probably a good thing. He said, the atmosphere in which Davos takes place will be welcoming, but it is also of utmost seriousness, he confided. So there's no place for the frivolous fringe that seeks to distract and divert attention. End of quote. That fringe, of course, is you and me, folks. So the Davos crowd tells us we are to trust the World Economic Forum and their four-part mantra of diversity, inclusion, equality, and climate change to be able to save the world from itself. But are these really the four-part mantra of the WEF and Klaus Schwab, or are they a smokescreen to hide a more devious agenda? If you carefully examine the World Economic Forum website, you will see that their actual four-pronged mantra are all about control, but it isn't control of a climate. It's about control of people, you and I. Those four mantras are surveillance, enabled by digital ID, financial control, enhanced by central bank controlled digital currency, centralized governance, enabled by the UN, and social credit scoring, similar to what China has. In this way, the World Economic Forum will meet their other goals. Everyone will be included, everyone will be equal, everyone will have nothing. But unlike their famous tagline, we will have nothing, but we'll be miserable. We'll be slaves. Of course, no one will willingly go down this route if given a choice. For instance, Kenya just voted to make digital ID illegal. Nations not already controlled by this globalist cabal see the handwriting on the wall, and they're going to try to avoid it. The good citizens of the nation you live in would never willingly go along with these things either, and might actually fight back, which brings up the issue of the global apocalypse that Schwab was referring to. It's the perfect excuse for the World Economic Forum and their billionaire elite who want to control everyone and everything. So either the apocalypse of disease, war, and economic collapse that Schwab mentions is just a fortunate turn of events for the World Economic Forum and the UN, or it is contrived, and at least in part, intentionally implemented to make the uninformed happy to go along with their agenda. So what do you think? Do you think the World Economic Forum and the UN have designed this agenda for decades and have just lucked into these things recently? Or do you think some or all of these events that have happened to us were contrived? You can answer that question in the comments. Now, let's look at how this four-part agenda of surveillance, financial control, global governance, and social credit scoring works, and how it works together, and how it matches what the Bible says will happen in the upcoming years. First, the World Economic Forum desires to implement a worldwide digital ID. It will be a digital ID of equality, diversity, and inclusion. Everyone will be forced to get it. If they're going to participate in society, no one will be able to travel, work, probably even won't be able to enter stores or restaurants without one. There will be no buying or selling without it. The rich, the poor, the small, and the great will all have to get it or not participate in society. And with the digital ID, they will know everything you do and everywhere you go, everything you say online, everyone you have contact with. You can imagine all of this going into some giant database. In order to prevent you from accidentally forgetting your phone when you're going somewhere you don't want them to know about, RIDF chips will be implanted in everyone. Klaus Schwab talks about these chips openly in his book on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. To complement this world of surveillance will be a digital currency that also will be one of equality, diversity, and inclusion. See, they're fulfilling their mantras, just not in the way you thought. This will be forced on everyone as well. And you thought equality and inclusion were good things. Well, that was just Orwellian doublespeak. This is what they have in mind. If the government controls the digital currency, it will be sort of like the current cryptocurrencies, but instead of being decentralized where people control it, everything about it will be controlled and programmed by the government. If they don't want you buying something, they can program your money to prevent you from buying that item. Or if they want to turn your bank account off completely, they can just shut you off, preventing all your buying and selling. Along with this digital currency is likely to be the concept of universal basic income, that everyone is given a basic low living wage. A totally socialist concept. Again, it's equality, diversity, and inclusion. Everyone is poor. So instead of everyone being average, everyone falls to the lowest common denominator. What do you think the purpose of worldwide inflation is? Have you ever thought about it? Its purpose is to make your current income and savings worthless. So you're happy to accept this coming universal basic income because something is better than nothing, they think. And by the way, in case you're buying into that lie that inflation is only 8 to 10% right now, last year the USA printed 40% of the dollars that were ever printed. Yes, you heard me right, that were ever printed. So right there, the inflation of money is at least 40% because they pumped 40% more in. That's why gasoline rose 100% or more last year and why food prices are rising out of control. Once this balloon bursts, everyone will have nothing, and they assume they'll be glad to receive the universal basic income that is equal and inclusive. In the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verses 5 and 6, this universal basic income is called a denarius, a day's wages, and it's said you will be able to purchase enough wheat with that denarius to bake a single loaf of bread. Work all day, get a single loaf of bread. That's how poor the elites want and plan to make you. The third part of the agenda is to eliminate the sovereignty of nations, so all decisions come from a central source. They can't have places like Kenya saying they don't want digital ID after all. The UN will continue, but as they have written in their newest documents, They want to replace the current Security Council that, China, Russia, USA, Britain, France, etc. They want to replace that with a group of individuals, stakeholders, that they call thought leaders, because they're going to lead our thoughts. These will be people like Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Bill Gates. In other words, this group will control the world. In the Bible, this coming world empire is said to rule over all the kings of the earth in Revelation 17:18. This is likely how that happens. They will then likely also replace the police of each nation with UN brown shirts who will enforce their policies. If you wonder why we're defunding the police now, well, that's why. Replace them with people loyal to the empire. The final element of this agenda is social credit scoring like the one in China. Schwab has praised China and its leader, Xi Jinping, for their leadership in this area. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If you go places, if you say things you shouldn't, if you meet with people you shouldn't, your score goes down. If it goes down far enough, what's going to happen? In Revelation 17:6, we read this evil empire is drunk on the blood of the saints. Is this why? It's due to the credit scoring. Do the saints refuse to comply with this agenda? The fourth seal of Revelation 6:7-8 says that the green horse rider is given authority to kill a quarter of the earth. And all this happens prior to the beast of Revelation coming forth. The beast eventually burns this system with fire. Can you see people following the beast because he freed them from this evil empire? I can. In Revelation 19:1-10, the people of God in heaven rejoice when God allows the destruction of this empire. Certainly those on earth, who are still on the earth at that point, will celebrate if an earthly person burns up this empire. Maybe they'll even make him king over everything. That king, of course, being the Antichrist. So what should Christians do now? Knowing what the Bible tells us is about to happen, we can't assume that these things won't happen because the Bible is clear that they will happen. So opposing this empire is not the right thing to do. But what sort of precautions should we take? Well, a lot. We have this brand new book, How to Prepare for the Last Days, that talks about exactly what Christians should be doing physically and spiritually. The link to buy it or download the free ebook are down in the description below. Get yourself a copy. The idea of hyperinflation, food shortages are probably also on your mind, I'm sure. I mean, that's something happening in the news right now. If you want to keep watching, you can click right here to discover what the Bible says about preparing for the famines of the end times. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.